All right, we're going to see how this grand experiment goes going live to YouTube here. Yeah, there we go. So, I just, whoa. Okay. Yeah, well, YouTube does these monetization ads that are sometimes irritating, but it helps recoup the cost here when I do this. So appreciate that. See, Brent Kimber is on the chat. It's nice to have you here, Brent. We'll take a few minutes here to get warmed up and go. I can't say that I have the answers to everything. That's the danger of saying, ask me anything. The problem is you may or may not get an answer, or it may just be, I don't know. But one of the things that I've been really zeroing in on that a lot of artists have problems with, or just, have questions. I don't want to call it a problem. So, I mean, sometimes it is, but is just technology. There's so many different moving pieces to learn that it can be a real challenge to put all those pieces together. I've worked in technology for well over 40 years, and I still struggle with it myself because there's several pieces of the puzzle that have to go together. So what I'm hoping is in the future, we can have more questions. I can address those more specifically here on YouTube. Some of the things I've been thinking about that I've talked about, it's like, website design, how to set it up, what platform to set it up on, email campaigns, who should I use, photography, video, using Ecamm Live or OBS or something like that, or Zoom to do workshops and get-togethers and that sort of thing. All of these things, there's so many different questions. Just last week, I had someone ask me about a wireless microphone set. I thought, wow, this is way too common. I'm getting all these questions. So maybe this could be a good watering hole for that kind of information. At least ask the question and we'll figure it out. So I see Gail Madeira on. Hey, it's good to have you on here as well. So I've got Brent and Gail here. I know this was totally short notice. I mean, it was an hour ago that I finally decided, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I got to get better at it. I got to do more. In fact, I was just reading this book. Have y'all seen this? Fishing for Elephants. It's a rather expensive book, but it's along the line of and I've mentioned this before on the podcast. People will say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, the good news is you're not a dog, you're a human. But it made a lot of good points in here. But one of them was really the best way to learn is just to dive in and do. I mean, you can take all the workshops, read all the books, but until you start experimenting, that is when you learn. So that's what I'm doing. I tend to love books, and so that can get me in trouble because that means I can read and read and read and never get around to actually doing. Is that, so maybe you experience that. I don't know. I don't find too many people that actually like to read anymore. So let me see. So one of the purposes of this live stream today is just to figure things out. So Gail, I'm going to see if there's a feature here that should allow me to display your comments in YouTube, Brent. And I should have practiced this before, and I did not do that. See if I can make it happen. There we go. There's Gail. Yeah. Yeah, I'm constantly finding new books like this. This one came from, let's see, who was it? It was one of my podcast episodes. Amanda Lovett. Was it Amanda Lovett? I can't remember now. But she recommended, my guests recommended this book. So Oh man, when they make a book recommendation, my wallet hates that. So, oh man. So Gail, you are a software tester. Oh my goodness. You are probably one of those people who have empathy for the users. You know, back in my software development days, it was required reading for my team. I would make them read Alan Cooper's book, The Inmates Are Running the Asylum. And he makes at least two principles that I thought of that was so invaluable to my team. One was the computer does the hard stuff. Developers, stop making the users do the hard stuff. And then the second thing is don't make your users feel dumb. Oh, man. But anyway. Okay, let's try a few of these here. Yes, good, Gail. I'm proud of you, man. That is awesome. My daughter does software testing from time to time as well. That's a tough job, but it is so important to have somebody like you doing that. So appreciate what you do there. And being artistic is a good outlet for that. Okay, let me see. Brent, let's try this. Okay. I'm going to try putting your question out there. Okay. I'm not sure if I can ask questions in advance, but I struggle with taking good photos or scans of my work. So two things here. Yes, we've learned something. You can ask questions in advance. So if I remember to schedule the live stream in YouTube, this is the first time the way I do this in the past is I just press go and it just happens. So no one knows that I'm there until I'm actually into the live stream. So that's one challenge that I have here. So I decided, okay, let me try the scheduling. It's a bit confusing on YouTube, but the nice thing about it is when it's scheduled, you can, in fact, ask questions or make comments in the chat box in advance. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so let's talk about taking photos. There is a guy that I just saw. I've been having this trouble too. I think people who do oil painting have the biggest struggle because of the patina of oil painting. What is your medium, Brent? Do you work in acrylics, oils, watercolor, pastel? If you're still there, just let me know. So the biggest problem with photography is the shininess of the surface and having even lighting. So what I have found is you have to take the best photo of your artwork without glare and the shine coming through is you have to have two sets of polarizing filters. One goes over your lights and the other is on your lens. Oh man, you got it made. Watercolor and pencils is what Brent is saying here. So you don't have the problem with the shine or glossiness of the surface as I would, because most of my stuff is not watercolor, oil painting, which is shiny. And then if you varnish it, it becomes even more shiny. Or if you use Galkid light or something like that, that adds a glossiness to the paints. So if you're doing oil paintings, really any paintings, I have two soft boxes, which I set at 45-degree angles at the exact same height as the artwork. If it's a smaller work and it's sitting on the table, two LED lights. Lowe's makes an LED light that's absolutely fantastic. It's $20. It's a little round head, and let's see, you probably can't. I got one over my easel. I got one on the paint palette. But you can set those up at exactly 45-degree angle and then set your camera over that. DSLR is probably better, but you can do it. You can do a pretty good shot with a modern smartphone. The iPhone does a pretty good job. But if you really want the best, I would use a DSLR. I use Canon equipment, but really just about anything that you get will work fantastically. But the key is you got to have everything's got to be perpendicular. So if your camera's skewed just a little bit, then you're going to have warp in the image. and it's just not going to do. There's my sister, Toby. She's my favorite youngest sister. Hey, Toby. It's good to have you on. She is an expert picker, her and her husband. And you see these books behind me here? She is the single biggest reason why there's so many books sitting on this bookshelf. She finds deals. You need to check her stuff out if you ever want to do some fine antiques and hard to find things. Her and her husband Dan do an outstanding job with that, and they also have some amazing paintings. I'll have to get those on here sometime too. I think Joseph Bartoli, a couple of paintings there that have a history that's really neat. Okay, back to photography. So the key is everything's got to be perpendicular, and your light's 45 degrees, and that's really the key, I think. But now, if you're doing oil paintings, the problem is you have the shine. So what you need is a polarizing filter, a linear polarizing filter on your camera, your DSLR. And then you use linear polarizing sheets to cover your lights. So you can get these LED lights that are about 8 by 8 inches square. So get 2 of those, put them on a stand, put them at the same height as your painting, put them at exactly 45-degree angles, put the linear sheets over it. They're about $20 a piece, so it's not a cheap thing, but you can get the 2 LED lights. That's a kit that's going to run you about $200 on Amazon, and then get the 2 linear sheets of a polarizing material, drape them over the lights, and then put the linear filter on your camera. And then as you turn it, you'll see those reflections just disappear. It's the coolest thing ever. It's magical. It's technical magical. So that is the key to photographing that. It's easier said than done, I know. It takes practice. You just have to get in there and do it. Does that help, Brent? I hope that helps a little bit. I need to do a more in-depth video on that. In fact, I've got it on my reminders on my iPhone to do a video on photographing artwork. And I'll tell you who told me a lot about this was Ralph Oberg. In his studio, he had it set up that way he photographs his own work. And it was really interesting to see. The other thing that he did that might be a good tip too is you want to make sure that all other extraneous lights are baffled out so that you don't see it. Like if you got light coming in through a window or anything like that. So you use these black drapes around it. That's the optimal thing. You don't have to do that, but you'll get better results if you can baffle out any extraneous lights. All you want are those 2 polarized lights illuminating your painting. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Oh, Toby, you got more books. Okay, I'm going to owe you more money. That's fine. So thank you. Let's see. I know I missed a question here. See, this is one of the things I'm going to have to learn how to do is multitask. And I don't know how to multitask. It's been scientifically proven that humans cannot multitask. Oh, there we go. Okay, Brent, another question was how to best film a tutorial for a YouTube experiment of my own. Specifically, I want a good overhead camera angle above a table. So it depends on the equipment that you're using. So a lot of times I just use my iPhone. And I have a $25 boom that looks like, pardon the noise, you're going to hear some new. You see this arm here? It's identical to this. In fact, it's made by the same company, but instead of a mic holder, it has an iPhone clamp, or any smartphone. It doesn't have to be an iPhone, any clamp. And you can clamp that on there. And then I have a real cheap, inexpensive remote control button it's a Bluetooth device that pairs to my iPhone. So I'll get it all set up. I have to have a step ladder because I'm too short. So I get on the step ladder, I look at the screen, make sure everything is framed up the way I want, get down, And then when I'm ready to film, I hit the start button, the little remote control, and it starts filming. It's the coolest thing ever. That's probably the most affordable overhead setup. Now, if I'm using the DSLR, it's a little more complicated. I have a Manfrotto tripod that has a rotating pole, so I can do it horizontally. So I'll put the camera on that. Then I have to sandbag it because it's not stable. So you got to sandbag it so it doesn't fall over. So that's is basically what I do. I've seen people take what's called a C-stand, which is a bit more, has a more reach than like the Manfrotto tripod. And you can raise it pretty high and you can put it out, and you can get an adapter at the end of the C-stand that connects to your tripod mount in your camera. You have to sandbag it because, again, it's not stable if you don't. So you got to do that. But that works really well, and you can move it around there. So, okay, let's see. Hey, Rola Sabra? Is that how you say your name? It's good. Yeah, it's good to see you here as well. Okay, Brent asks, do you worry about running out of space on your film when I don't understand the question entirely because I'm not very smart. Oh, on my phone? Is that what you're talking about? So, yeah, but my phone, when I buy a phone, I make sure I order the one that has the most RAM storage. I think this one, when it came out, was like 128 gigs or something like that. And I rarely use more than half of it. So that leaves plenty of space for video. As far as my cameras, my DSLRs, they're not too bad. They're not too bad. Okay, so yeah, so it's a phone that Brent's talking about. No, I don't really worry about it too much. And then I buy the $10 a month iCloud account. So everything that's on photos, which includes the videos, it goes up into iCloud. And then I back that up to, you can get external drives. In fact, I just found one today. Yeah, it's 2 terabytes by Seagate. It's a 2 terabyte external USB drive from B&H Photo for $58. You can't beat that. It's 2 terabyte. That will hold a lot of video. And I just keep adding those in. I just keep buying little external drives. I actually have a bare metal. I have an enclosure, so I can take a bare metal. In other words, a drive that's not mounted in an enclosure, and I can put it in this. And then I can make backups to it because you can buy those drives fairly cheap. So that's what I do for storage there. And then I have a Dropbox account where I put my active projects. You don't work from Dropbox, but I store them there. And then I download them to my local hard drive and do my editing. Like if I'm doing the podcast, if I'm doing a video or something like that. Yeah, me too, man. Don't feel bad. And my autocomplete on my iPhone, sometimes it's working against me. So yeah, don't worry. Of course, it's funny. When I was in high school, I had a rough going to high school. I was not the best kid, unfortunately, and I deeply regret that. I really do. But when I got to my senior year, I started to calm down, and I made the decision that, well, what happened is they had this teletype machine that was tied in with a extremely slow modem to a mainframe computer somewhere in Atlanta. And I got interested in that, started programming BASIC and that sort of thing. And I thought, this is pretty cool. I could see where I need to learn how to type. And so for my elective, I signed up for a typing class. I think they all thought I was crazy because I was the only guy in that whole class. But I am so glad I took that typing class. I'm not a great typer, but I can't imagine what kind of typer I would be if I'd not taken that typing class. So it was by far my favorite class that I ever took in school. So, yeah, learning how to type has been a blessing, really, for me. So let's see. This has gone pretty good. We've gone in for about 20 minutes. I've been running my mouth. I hope I am getting the point across in some of these things. These are great topics: photographing your artwork, storage for video, that sort of thing. Editing video. See, that's another topic I thought I would cover, because that is it can be a real challenge, but it can be a lot. It can be a lot of fun. It's a very creative thing to do as well. Do any of you do your own video editing? If anyone does, it'd be great to let me know. And what do you use? How do you edit your videos? There's a lot of cool tools. If you have an iPad, for example, there is a product that's fairly easy to use. There's actually two. One is iMovie. Don't laugh at it. It's a good product. It actually works pretty good. And then there is another one that's even more sophisticated. It's called LumaFusion. And it's an astonishing program for the price and what it does on an iPad. So if you shoot video on your iPad or an iPhone, share it with your iPad and edit right there, and then you can export and upload it to YouTube. Or you could do this. If you have an outline, because I'm a hypocrite, I don't have an outline, but write a few notes down and just live stream straight to Facebook or YouTube. You can do that. Of course, I'm one to be taught. I'm not that good at it yet, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to try this. So anyway, what are some other topics I should try to address? What do you think artists struggle with the most when it comes to technology? I'm thinking, well, let's go to Gail. I do a little of my own video editing. I've used iMovie, but I'm starting to learn Adobe Premiere Pro because I have the Creative Suite. That is a fantastic program. You've also got After Effects, which is a hugely deep program. I'm no master of After Effects. I don't personally use Premiere because I use Final Cut, but that doesn't mean I think really Premiere Pro is good. There's a woman I know. Her YouTube name is Premiere Gal, and she has some of the best Premiere Pro tutorials I've ever seen when it comes to using and video editing with Premiere Pro. It's a very, very capable program. Very nice. Excellent. That's a good point, Gil. So I'm gonna bring that up here. Most artists don't realize that they can learn technology. So the first hurdle is that they say is I can't right off the bat. Totally. I'm 100% behind that. That is so true. I often hear the phrase I hear the most often is they'll say, I'm not a techie. I'm not a techie, or I'm not tech savvy. But what is technology? It's merely a tool. Technology is the use of tools to accomplish a job. If a person drives an automobile, they're a techie. That's one of the most sophisticated pieces of technology a person can use, and yet they don't even think about it. Well, maybe they need to think a little more about their driving. I let my wife do all the driving. I like being chauffeured. That was probably a bad example. But you can learn things. And, I'm getting older, and one of the fears that I had when I was younger is being set in my ways, because that is a trait that unfortunately has some truth to it with older ones, is that we get set in our ways and we think the old ways were the best. And I'll give you a good example of this. Some of my friends will say, I'd like to have a 57 Chevy, and they'll go out and spend, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000 for a 57 Chevy. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that was my family car. And every time we got in a 57 Chevy to go someplace, we broke down somewhere. We never got there that I can remember without breaking down or getting pulled over by the police because tail light was out or some other, thing like that. And the last memory I have of that 57 Chevy is I was in the house. My dad was out. I was a kid there, and my dad was working on the car. And the next thing I see is that 57 Chevy with no driver in it rolling down the hill. And then I see my dad chasing it. So when I think of someone that wants a 57 Chevy, I'm thinking, yeah, that was a really bad car. The good old days weren't necessarily as good as we tend to polish it out, There's a lot of things I just simply wouldn't want to give up today that I have that I wouldn't have had 20 years ago. So it just requires a mindset, changing our mindset that we can learn something. I see a lot of retired people learning how to paint. There is nothing harder than learning how to paint. You have to learn how to draw. You have to have master values and color, and then you have to have this creative side where you're trying to design what you're going to do. That's extremely hard to do. That's harder to do than learning how to use an iPhone to shoot a video. I really, truly believe it's far easier for me to master this than it is oil painting. Yes. Thank you, Brent. And I did see your comment a while ago, too, that you were in IT as well. The good thing about being in IT, I think, is the advantage for us is that IT was one of those fields where you had to constantly learn. You had to learn new skills and in order to keep up. I knew guys. I started off with COBOL, PL1, Fortran. Those are ancient languages. Assembler, IBM assembler. Those are ancient languages. Now, what if I had just been set in my way? Well, I'm not going to do anything except COBOL. Well, I might have had a surge in jobs, I guess, this year because they had a shortage of IBM COBOL mainframe programmers in some government agencies, but they were only paying like $20 an hour for these old guys. So no, it's not a good idea to sit still and not do it. Let's see. Yeah. I think the best way for artists to get over that hurdle is to keep saying to themselves, if someone else did this, I can too, over and over like a mantra. Yeah, exactly. I got this. I can do this. I can learn this. And I do that myself. I say, okay, I can do this. Sometimes you can get discouraged, and I understand that. And I understand that things are not perfect. And as soon as you can embrace the imperfection of technology and things like that. Now, I'm a hypocrite saying this too, because, I did user interaction design and things like that. So I really have to fight the tendency to become critical of the tools that I use. Because I'm thinking, what were they thinking when they did that? But yeah, you got to have an open mind with it and be positive that you can do this. Here I am. I'm learning how to use Ecamm Live, which is the software that I'm using to do this live stream. I'm using it in connection with YouTube. There's a lot of moving pieces, and even YouTube admits. In fact, I watched a video earlier today. The team that's working on live streaming actually said, we've really made this confusing, and we want to simplify it. And I thought, well, that was very humble of them to say that. I really appreciated that. So it made me feel better about what they're doing. So I worked through it and said, okay, I'll figure this out and make it go. And it did. Here we are. We're all having this conversation like this, which is pretty cool. I think it's great. Let's see. You started in Mass 11. Okay, this whole guy, you got to explain that to me. I'm missing something there. What did you, was that a language or is that a place? the disadvantage of being a programmer is you tend to be a very literal thinker, and to be creative, that's kind of hard to break out of. So my wife teases me about that all the time, that I'm very literal about things. So I'm trying to be more metaphorical. It's hard. And I chose to learn art. Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. So, yeah, the mindset is the big thing. So I appreciate what Gail said there. Having a good mindset about learning is so, so important. And I've seen people who are 90 years old, 100 years old, learn how to use an iPad. And once they do, they get good at it, and they enjoy using it. They realize the potential that the tool has. So the same with artists, there's tools here that we can use. It's not just about making training videos or anything like that. That's part of it, but you could also do something like this where you're just talking. Sometimes people just need a coach rather than someone to teach them something, right? So just having a coach mentality, sharing like this, helps. It's one of the reasons I do the podcast. One is it helps me learn, but it also gives me an opportunity to practice this, talking about things and encouraging people. I like to see people succeed as well. So I'll give you a good example of that is just the other day, my wife and I bought my oldest granddaughter, a French easel. I mean, a real one, not a toy one, but a real one. Something that will last her for, hopefully into her adult life until she decides to use something different. And, oh my goodness, John Patushnik. Man, it's good to see you. So I'm in the process of editing a podcast episode that I recorded with John. Amazing guy, amazing artist, has a really good grip on color, mixing color, has a beautiful book. Well, I'll share that in the podcast, but he's someone to follow, and he has an excellent blog with all these different articles. He does interviews himself in the blogs, very thought-provoking, and a lot of the guests that he's had is just very inspiring. I haven't got through his whole blog. It's rainy day reading for me, which I thoroughly enjoy. So check out John Patushnik's website. It's great to have you here, John. Really appreciate that. Let's see. Oh, this was fun. I have to drop. Yes, thanks. And I appreciate your support, Brent. I really do. You support it in more ways than one, by being here, your financial support, and so forth. So I really appreciate you being on. So thanks. I'm going to be wrapping this up in a few minutes anyway. But thank you for joining us, Brent. You made this experiment, I hopefully a success there. But I wanted to get back to about teaching. I'm learning art. So, but my wife and I, we bought this French easel for my granddaughter. She's 10 years old. And the only reason I got it is, she really has a heartfelt interest in painting. It's not just a passing fad, but it's something she has a heartfelt interest in doing. So we decided, you know what? We're going to get her an easel. The other day, we were on Zoom, not Zoom, FaceTime. She calls me up, says, "Granddad," she shows me this painting she wants to do. And so I said, okay. So I set aside a couple hours for her, watched her do it, gave her tips, the best that I could. We had a blast. It was quality time with my granddaughter, and I was so happy to see her wanting to learn how to do an analog art, not just be on the iPad, watching videos. Here I am recording a video, of course, but you know what I mean. She was doing something with her hands. She was being creative there. Oh, Gail, okay. Mass 11 is an ancient software, but I forgot about them. Yeah, that's right up there with what was it, the PDP 11 and all those guys. That generation of technology. Yeah, I didn't have experience with that. So Thanks for enlightening me on that. Good. Okay, John, it's good to see you, and I'll have your podcast out next week, okay? All right. Very nice. Oh, it's really great to have John on. He's, like I said, he's someone you really want to have in your RSS feed. You know, these blog posts and just his art is really incredible. So, very nice. Yeah, River is such a joy to be around, and her sister is too. But her interests are different. You know, she's interested in music and that sort of thing. So both creative, but in their own unique ways. And I love to see that in young people. Their parents have done a really nice job encouraging them to work with their hands. You know, they have, I think it's like 29 chickens, okay? They got 29 chickens out at their home. And so we buy eggs from them. They're learning how to do a business. So I go and buy a dozen eggs for $3. That's not bad for organic eggs, is it? But they go and they collect the eggs. They feed the chickens. You know, here they are. You know, one's 10 and the other's 7, and it's just it's cool. Hey, Lynn. Oh my goodness, Lynn Schmiel. Speaking, tech challenge. But you know what, Lynn? You are a master venter, right? A gardener. And look at the paintings that you do. They're absolutely stunning. So it's be sure to check out lynschmiel.com. To me, he's one of the finest painters in America right now. Just extraordinary work. And also he has a beautiful book called An Authentic Nature. I'm looking at that book quite a bit. You know, it's just something when I want to just sit down and seek out some inspiration. That is a great book to do that. So, Lynn, it's good to have you here. Well, that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm setting up this channel. I'm doing this experiment with this to see if we can address technology problems that artists have, because that's the thing I keep hearing. You know, I'm having trouble with my website. I'm having trouble shooting video. I may not have the answer because I am not the world's leading expert. But I love finding out and researching things so I can do that. And it keeps my mind sharp and it's fun there. Oh, Debbie Mueller. Oh, my goodness. Hey, Debbie. Man, she is knocking it out of the ballpark with her art. You should go check her website out too. Thank you for jumping in. I really appreciate that. She is quite an amazing artist. That's the thing. There's so many different people that are painters. And it doesn't matter the medium, whether it's watercolor, pastel, pencil, oil paints. I don't care. I love it all. I can't learn it all, but I love it all. And it's just amazing what people are able to produce, and each one brings their own voice to it. I don't even understand this thing, looking for your own voice, because it's built in. And the art is amazing that some of my listeners, they come in and they send me an email and they send me their link, and I look at it and say, wow, this is great. But Debbie's one of those. Her art is just amazing. And I hope your new changed circumstances are really allowing you to devote more time to that, Debbie. Very nice. Oh, that's a good point. So so Lynn writes, John Zahorik did the research on the polarizers and handed it to me when I handed it to Ralph, and now you're handing it off to everyone that needs it. I frame my polarizers with cardboard. You know what, Lynn, that's a good tip. I didn't think about that because I was just thinking about just taping them over the lights, but you could damage the polarizers, and of course they got to be vertical there. They got to maintain their orientation or it won't work as well. Nice tip, Lynn. Yeah, and Ralph's studio setup was really nice. It was fantastic. I'm going to have to see your studio setup. Yeah, it's great. All right. Well, I've been doing this for about 40 minutes. 40 minutes so far. Had good interaction here. Appreciate that. You've allowed me to learn how to show the the messages. I'm learning this software. See, I'm trying to emphasize the point that no matter how old you are, you can teach an old dog new trick. Well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you're not a dog. You're a human. We can learn this stuff, right? We can do this, and it's fun. So, yeah, that's what I intend to do till the day I die. I hope I keep learning. That's all I want. I want to be able to learn and then share what I learn. I don't have any paid tutorials. I don't have any membership sites or anything like that. But, maybe one day I will. I don't know. But it's not that important to me. What's important is being able to share this. I do get some support from donations to the podcast. I get, some ad revenue. It's not much, but it helps. It helps offset the cost. And so that's enjoyable just to be able to have that. So as long as my hosting fees and all that are taken care of, I'm pretty good with that. Oh, by the way, Lynn, if you're still on, I got to send you a bottle of this. This right here. Well, I'll send it to anyone else. This stuff is liquid gold. You know what? This has nothing to do with art. Well, it does. There's a painter. There's a paint company that uses honey in their paints, and I can't remember the name of the company. Is it Daniel Smith or is it Grumbacher? I don't remember. Somebody uses honey in their paints. I don't know why, but they do. I would rather eat the honey than have it in my paint. This right here was certified as 72% sourwood honey. And the only place you can get honey of this caliber is in Rabun County, Georgia. The sourwood trees are just prolific there, and the bees love it. This is some of the best honey in the world. Yeah, Lynn, I'm going to send you a bottle of this. You got to privately, don't do it here, but send me an email with your address. I'll send you a bottle of this. Okay. I know he'll appreciate that. He is a master chef and a gardener, and grows grapes, makes wine, all of that. But this right here is some of the best honey I've had ever in my life. So anyway, I call it liquid gold. In fact, my wife is she's going up to her brother's to help her mother out. We don't travel very much because of the COVID situation, but necessity speaks, and of course she loves her mother, and so she's going to go up there and take care of her, and she'll be picking up a case of honey. So if anybody wants some, just let me know. But I have to tell you, it's got a price to it, though. It's not the cheap stuff. It's expensive to produce. Okay. Wow. I've really enjoyed talking with everyone here. It's been just an absolute joy to be able to experiment. I thank you so much for your time joining me here in this little experiment here on YouTube. I'll do it again. I'll set this up and we'll do it again. If you have specific questions, you can email me. There's a contact form on carlolson.tv. So just if you go to the contact tab, you can type me a message and it'll get to me. Or you may already have my email address. I don't know. Some of you are on my email list. You may be on Facebook or whatever, but just drop me an email and I'll make it a topic for a future video. My next experiment is to use Keynote, which is a presentation software. I haven't done that yet. I'm also going to be working a little bit with Keith Wong of Sentient Academy. We're going to try an experiment next Monday. It won't be public Monday, but we're experimenting with different ways, and he's excited about the technology, and I'm learning the technology. So we're going to see what we can do with that. See if we can come up with some other things that we can share with our artist friends. But there's so much to talk about. I want to talk about, let's say you are an artist and you do a workshop. How can you use this technology? If you're, one of the things I like to talk about is don't sign an NDA. not an NDA, a non-compete. That's it. NDAs are okay in their proper setting. It's the non-competes that really scare the daylights out of me. I've seen artists sign non-competes with major publishing companies, and then they're tied up. They can't post training videos on YouTube. They can't do it for at least 2 years. And then they get such a tiny, tiny, teensy-weensy little royalty that's in the less than 10%. It's nuts. You can take all the income. There's ways to do it. And, so I want to talk more about that. I'm working on a presentation to show about how you can host your own courses and anything else that you come up with. So I need to consult with Lynn to see about doing a video. I need to do a video on how to photograph your artwork. So yeah, thanks. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap this live stream session up. It'll probably take a few hours for YouTube to process it, but you should be able to go back and watch it again, and you should be able to see the chat comments on the side there. But it'll be up in just a little while. Well, I say a little while, in a few hours, and you can go back and watch it or share it with your friends. Very much appreciate that. But anyway, thank you for listening to The Artful Painter, and we'll see you in the next video.